maybe there's different modes of healing besides just this mentally dominant modern medical way of healing. Maybe there's other things to take into account besides a technological and proficient understanding of how cells work and how the structure is, and more of a organic, holistic need to examine a whole body, what that body wants to do, what that person inside that body desires to function as, and to really treat those people. I chose acupuncture as a profession. I was out of college. I was a pre-med student, I double majored in biology and creative writing. And then I took a year off from school. I lived in Bolivia and I wanted to have some experience before I just went into med school and got into debt. Then after I was in Bolivia for a year, I got another opportunity working as a biotech analyst at a hedge fund at a starting salary in New York City of $30,000 or something, like not enough to live in the city. So I'm teaching yoga on the side, and I am talking to all my friends who are already in med school in their second year of med school, and they're like, we are in so much debt, there's so much work, and we don't even know what kind of jobs are out there for us. All my friends who were biology majors really wanted to work in research institutions and study cancer. It wasn't a good lifestyle. All those doctors seemed to be in huge amounts of debt, having to work huge caseloads, and then also, having to do all this research. It's not a lifestyle that's conducive to health. And in that moment, I started to think about why are all the doctors, everyone I know that's becoming a doctor, why are they sounding overwhelmed and getting sick? And then at the same time, I was teaching yoga on the side. And so I was working at a hedge fund as a biotech analyst, going to all these roadshow lunches with, companies that were making new medical devices like implants for backs and, new heart drugs and all these things. And then every time I'd be at these roadshow lunches and there'd be all these investors there, and almost always these companies had a doctor as the CEO. And so the doctor would be the CEO, and after the doctor would present their medical device or their medical technology or this thing that they developed, they'd open the floor for questions, and then it became sort of informal. They're feeding you. And investors would walk up to the doctors and be like, hey, doc, I got this golf elbow thing, or I have this knee problem. What would you do? And the doctors would be like, go see your doctor. I'm not that kind of doctor. And that was actually how I got my start teaching yoga. I was like, oh, hey, well, I can teach you yoga that'll help you with those things. And I started teaching yoga to golfers basically and helping them with their backs and their elbows. And one of my favorite things ever, and this happened multiple times, I would get a message on my phone 2 days after I'd worked with someone for the first time. And it would go something like this, hey, Chris, I was just at the golf course and I played the worst 18 holes of my entire life, but my back feels better than it's ever felt. Thank you. And in that mode, I started to really move away from yoga had just been this thing that I had done and I liked doing it, to maybe there's different modes of healing besides just this mentally dominant modern medical way of healing. Maybe there's other things to take into account besides a technological and proficient understanding of how cells work and how the structure is, and more of a organic, holistic need to examine a whole body, what that body wants to do, what that person inside that body desires to function as, and to really treat those people in that way rather than just learn all the things. And I don't want to say there's parts of modern medicine that I think are amazing, but a lot of modern medicine is it's cover your ass medicine too. What's the worst case scenario in this thing? Let's prescribe and treat for that rather than let's see what's really going on here. And instead of avoiding the catastrophe, let's move towards vitality.